Okay, so we're talking about Asia, we're talking about India, we're talking about European imperialism in Asia. So if you got your partial notes with you, you should be at a page that looks something like this, right? So we're talking about European imperialism in Asia, but today we're going to talk specifically about the country of India. Okay, so when we went over the timeline for this unit, we talked about the time period during which European powers colonized many parts of South Asia and Southeast Asia. Okay. Well, today we're going to start off by talking about the British East India Company. All right, so the British East India Company, this was obviously a British company. All right, so from the country of Britain in Europe. And all the way back in 1600, this company was given a monopoly over the business that was to be done in India. Okay, so Queen Elizabeth the First. Okay, so think about today we have Queen Elizabeth the Second as the Queen of England. Well, back then it was Queen Elizabeth the First, and she gave the British East India Company a monopoly on trading in India all the way back in 1600. So this was the time of mercantilism, right? This was before capitalism, and so this was a time where monarchs would do exactly this. They would give a company the ability to go and exclusively trade in one particular colony. Okay, and so that's what happened. So there were lots of things in India that the British were interested in. There was cotton cloth, tea, salt, spices, and opium. Okay, so these were some of the raw materials that they were interested in India. Okay, so India was a very diverse place, right? There were lots of different languages, lots of different religions, lots of different ethnic groups, a lot of different nations, and this part of the world was not already united as one political entity, right? So India was not one country when the British showed up to colonize it. In fact, they were not even the only ones who made attempts at colonizing India. The Dutch did as well, and so under the British, many different groups of people who were very different from each other were brought together as one colony. So the British East India Company ran this colony for a pretty long time. They had their own army, right? So think about that, right? Like a company having its own army, right? That seems a little bit strange to us nowadays, doesn't it? Like imagine if Coca-Cola had an army to protect their business interests, or if Nike had an army to protect their business interests. It'd be kind of strange, right? But during this time of mercantilism, during the time of colonialism, that was the case. They would have an army that helped them establish control over the local people to do business there. I'm going to skip over some of the stuff. There's lots of things that we talk about in class that, if you're not able to attend class, I'm just going to skip over some of the details in order to just cover the important stuff that you really need to know. Okay, so long story short, the British East India Company, it was believed that they were not having much success maintaining control over the people of India. There was a big rebellion, there was a big massacre, and it was decided that, okay, the British crown, right, the British monarch was going to establish control over India themselves. Okay, so in your partial notes where it says the Raj, well, the Raj begins in 1858. This is when the British government took over rule of India, and this began the period of time that Indians call the Raj, which means the rule, meaning the rule of the British. Okay, so you have this little chart in your notes here. And on the left side, we're going to talk about the imperialist policies that were used by the British while they established the Raj over the people of India. Okay, so by 1858, which was when the Raj began, Europe had been industrializing for quite some time. And so what did European manufacturers need? Well, they needed raw materials, right? And so for centuries, Indians made money by producing cotton cloth and selling it to people of other countries. But they were not the only country who was in the cotton cloth industry. The British were also involved in the cotton cloth industry, and they saw the cotton cloth industry of India as competition, right? And so this, they wanted to attempt to eliminate their competition. And for that reason, the British government banned, which means they made it illegal, to import all dyed and printed cloth from India, right? And this was done to promote their own textile industry, their own cotton cloth industry in Britain. And so Indians who made a living growing, harvesting, spinning, and weaving cotton had no more work, right? This impacted in a negative way a lot of people in India, right? Secondly, the people of India had been producing and selling salt for thousands of years, right? So India is surrounded by ocean, and oceans are salty, right? There's a lot of salt that can be produced in the subcontinent of India, right? However, the people of Great Britain also produced salt, and they wanted to sell it to the people of India, right? So the British government passed a law making it illegal to make your own salt in India. Okay, so these imperialist policies, they were created to benefit whom? Well, they were created to benefit the British people, right? The British colonialists. And these were done even though they hurt the people of India. Okay. Now, there were protests against some of these policies, and there was a big massacre in 1919, the Amritsar massacre. This left 379 people dead, and over 1,200 people were wounded in this massacre. Okay, so we're going to talk about an important person who helped promote the idea of independence in India. Okay, so if you look at your notes, you'll see a picture of him right over here. Okay, and then there's a spot where you can write down his name, and his name was Mohandas Gandhi, but they gave him the name Mahatma, which meant the great soul. Okay, so let's talk about him and his role in the movement in India to try to break away from British control. Okay, so Gandhi led a movement of peaceful non-cooperation with the British imperialists. Okay, so his whole movement was peaceful. He did not want to use violence. However, he also did not want the Indian people to cooperate with the British. He wanted them to intentionally break the rules that the British were creating, right? Like the salt rule and the cotton cloth rule, both of those, he said, we need to break those laws because those laws are immoral. However, we're going to do it in a way that is peaceful, without violence. Okay, so Gandhi encouraged Indians to not cooperate with the British imperialists, but to do so in peaceful ways. Okay, so if you want, there's an optional video, and you can pause this video and just watch the next video in my playlist, which is all about Gandhi giving a speech in which he calls upon his fellow Indians to, peacefully non-cooperate with the British, right? To follow his movement of peaceful non-cooperation with the British. Okay? So if you want to do that, you can pause this video now and go watch that other one and then come back. Go ahead now. Welcome back. All right, so here are a couple of quotes by Gandhi I think you might find interesting. He said, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind, right? So this idea of an eye for an eye, if somebody does something bad to me, then I am allowed to do something bad to him or her, right? That's an eye for an eye, right? This person plucked out my eye, I can pluck out their eye, and then we're even. Well, Gandhi says, don't do that. That just makes the whole world blind. And he also said, if you see that there is injustice in the world, something bad is happening, and you want the world to change, well, then you have to be the change. You have to be the first person to create that change in the world. Okay. He also promoted the idea of self-sufficiency, which you will see in your notes. Right. So Gandhi believed that India shouldn't depend on Britain for things like cotton cloth and salt. He thought that India should be able to sustain itself, that India should be able to produce things for itself without having to rely on their imperialist rulers. He encouraged people to make their own cloth and salt so that they would not depend on British goods. right? He did not want India to participate in this unfair trading practice between Britain and India. Okay, so he led this protest in which he brought the people of India to the ocean and he got them to make salt. So there was something called the Salt March in 1930. And this was done on the anniversary of that massacre we talked about earlier in the video. Okay, and so this was a way of showing the British that the people of India were not going to follow their rules, but that they were going to do it, that they were going to break the rules created by the British in a peaceful way. Okay, so he marched 240 miles, that's 386 kilometers, all the way to the ocean, and he had thousands of people with him, and they all started making salt, even though they were breaking the British rules. Okay, so if you want, you can pause this video and you can watch the next video in the playlist and learn about the Salt March. Okay, so go ahead and do that and then come back. All right, welcome back. So British rule in India did not last forever, right? So the end of the Raj finally came in 1947 on August 15th. Okay, and so this is what India looked like before or as it got its freedom. Okay, so around the time that India was given its independence after World War II, India looked like this. However, there were two main religions. There are many religions in India, but two main religions were Hinduism and Islam. And many people within the Muslim community wanted to have their own country, separate from the Hindu majority India. All right, and so the Muslim majority regions were up here in the northwest and over here in the northeast. Right, and so they decided that once India was going to get its freedom from the British, they were going to form their own Muslim majority country, and then they were going to call it Pakistan. And then over here would be East Pakistan. Okay, and so this is called partition, when the country was parted. The two groups of people parted ways, and they formed their own independent countries between Pakistan and India. Okay, so what I'm going to get you to do now is do a little bit of reading. So you already completed the left side of this chart by following this video. Now the right side of this chart, you're going to get the information for this right side of the chart in the textbook pages that I put in D2L. Okay, so in D2L, let's see if I can show you this. Yeah, yes I can. You go to D2L and you click on resources, you click on content, click on textbook, and at least, I'm filming this video on April 11th, right, semester 2. So if you're part of that semester of students, then it should look like this. It would say PB, which means textbook, Africa, India, and legacy. So you click on that. Okay, I'm going to make it full screen, and we're looking for what, page 156, I think, if I remember correctly. Scroll down. There we go. So page 156 looks like this. You will see some people, a picture of some people working in a tea plantation. So you can read pages 156 and 157. And as you read those pages, I want you to look for some legacies of imperialism in India. Okay, so the British ruled in India for a very, very, very long time. How did India become different as a result of British rule? In what ways did the British change India and impact the future of India? Okay, so as you read through, you should be able to find, 2 or 3 different examples of legacies of British imperialism in India. And as you do that, just write them in your chart. Okay, and once you've done that, that'll be everything for today's lesson. And I hope you, do well with that, and I hope you have a good day. Okay, see you later.